Happy Tuesday morning, everyone. I hope this finds you well and living your very best life in Jesus Christ. Not too long ago, I had an interesting conversation with a very old friend who had listened to several of my messages online, and, well, frankly, he called me to take me to task. It seems I'd rubbed him the wrong way when I said in a sermon that when it came to sin, my opinions don't matter. What matters is God's opinion. See, his problem, as he explained it to me, was that in his mind, my preaching on sin and so forth were, quote, exclusionist and hate-based. He went on to say that I really truly needed to reevaluate my preaching as it was not, and again, a quote from him, in line with the mainstream of current culture and thought. I explained to him it was not exclusionist or hate-based to save someone from certain disaster. But I think he was particularly upset when I actually thanked him and told him that he had actually complimented me because it was not my intention to ever be in the mainstream of current culture, because current culture is based on selfish, hedonistic wish fulfillment. I told him that no matter what we thought, God is far wiser and greater than we are, and that he can see the consequences of our actions and opinions where we can't. I told him that as far as I was concerned, our current culture is based on the matter of wanting things our way, even though God tells us what's best. I then reminded him of when his son was a teenager and decided the best way to repair his car. He ended up laughing as I recalled his story about carefully instructing his son as to the best way to fix his car, only to be ignored because his son decided he knew a better way than dear old dad. This, of course, ended up with the boy stranded on a road in the midst of a snowstorm on top of a mountain, desperately pleading with his father to come and get him, to save him. And the thing is, I told him that that's how we often are with God. We decide that we know best, only to find ourselves calling him to save us when it all falls apart. Look, it's the nature of man to want to do things our way, but most of the time that just leads to disaster. I mean, if you remember, Cain slew Abel because God had instructed them both how to make a sacrifice, but only Abel really listened. Cain wanted it his way, and it led to the very first recorded murder and his eventual banishment. Our opinions are just that, opinions. See, God's opinions are not really opinions. They're law. And God's opinion is what we need to follow. When we don't, the Scripture tells us over and over, we're doomed to disaster every time. The enemy wants us to do things our own way. He doesn't want us to consider God's will for our lives. He knows that when we follow God's way, we will be saved, blessed, and contented. Look, we all know that sometimes we may not understand why God is asking us to do things a certain way, and it may be strange to us. But His way is ultimately best, and our way will only lead to destruction. It reminds me of Proverbs 16:25. It says, "There is a way that seemeth right unto man, but the end thereof are the ways of death." Another analogy is that as a teacher, I've lost count of the number of times a student thought they knew better than I did. But when it comes to musical instruments, there's really only one way they can be successfully played. I can say that I know better than my students because I've seen every variation and all the failed my way attempts by students and myself a million times, and I know the best way. Therefore, I would think it would be wise of my students to listen and follow my instructions because I'm more experienced. Wouldn't you? Well, God is the creator of the entire universe. He created us and He knows everything about us. He has a great plan for our lives, and frankly, He can see our past, our present, and our future. I would think it would be wise of us to listen and follow His instructions instead of wanting to do things our own way. Look, even though we still disagree, I will continue to take the path of not going with the flow of current culture and thought. Instead, I will wisely choose, at least as far as I'm concerned, to listen to God and follow His instructions and encourage others to do so as well. And this morning, I strongly urge you to do so too. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't want to end up stranded again and have to call the Father to save me. He's already done that so many times. I mean, do you? I hope you make today a fantastic day. I want you to know that I'm here should you need me. And I love you all.